you can get to your ideal physique automatically and stay there once the things that need to happen for you to have that physique become automatic, right? So I used to be the skinny kid. I was 10 kilos lighter than my friends at school. When I finished university, I'd been training for 6, 7 years, and I was still one of the skinny ones. I worked in pro rugby where the average weight's 100 kilos, and I was still struggling to get to 80 kilos in body weight. So I know the struggle of it, but now it's become automatic because I worked on it for so long, because I studied it, because I applied things that work better than everything that I was looking up and researching. I tried everything for a long time, and there were a lot of myths and misconceptions. And because I've solved it for myself, I kind of don't worry about it that much anymore. If I work with a rugby player or someone and they want to add maths, it's a pretty simple process now. But I do understand that once it was a mystery, and once I had a lot of false ideas in my head. I thought I needed to take steroids or have some kind of crazy diet or train in a certain way that didn't end up working out very well. So I understand that you might have ideas about this that are very different to where I've arrived to. Because I got such a big response from that post, I figure, well, if there's hundreds of men where I usually don't get that many comments, I don't really love playing the game of Instagram. I do post there, and I have built a really good business based on it, but I haven't really taken on as something that I want to do really well to really make great Instagram. I'm 40. The Instagram kids are, they grew up with it and they started earlier. Anyways, this post, since so many people really care about adding muscle and having a 10 out of 10 physique, I'm going to put together a presentation around it to share what I have learned over the last 24 years or so since I got obsessed with physique. It was probably a little bit earlier than that. So I started putting together a presentation for it, and obviously that's everything coming together of what I've done. So I'm going to give you that presentation for free because you reached out and you asked for it, and I would like to help you to have a much better physique. So if you would like me to send that to you, or you would like to be on live when we do it, send me your email, and then I can give you access to that, and you can opt in for it so it's sent out automatically. It is a lot of effort to message everyone individually to do this. So if you're interested in it, I'm going to exchange it for the email. Now, for those who don't want to give me the email, I'm going to give you some more value just simply here to make it clearer that you can really get to your ideal physique, and it shouldn't be such a mystery. It shouldn't be so hard. You don't have to do a bunch of stuff that really harms yourself to get there. So the main things that I'm going to talk about in the presentation is to cover a lot around the mental side and understanding that you have to set different standards for yourself to the average person. Otherwise, you're going to have an average physique. So if you kind of want to be like everybody else, you're fighting against yourself, and you're going to have habits and actions and ways of thinking that clearly are not going to take you to an exceptional place, like logically. So there are going to be elements of this that will stretch your comfort zone. Now, because I've been doing these things now for a long time, they're no longer difficult for me. But I understand if you're just starting, then certain elements of the training or training consistency, I train every day. My minimum is 10 minutes. Most of the time it's 25. Sometimes it's 50, and occasionally it's 2 or 3 hours, or we stay in the gym all day having fun. I have multiple gyms around the world, and I work with trainers. So I definitely have done some long days, but now at the moment it's generally 10 to 25 minutes per day. And that's easy for me. That's automatic now because I've been doing it for a long time. So that might be a stretch of your comfort zone for you, or a stretch of your ideas of like, oh, don't you overtrain if you train every day, or doesn't it make you, do something bad? Aren't you more likely to get injured? In my experience, you're not. I tried a lot of other approaches, and I'm going to share the approach that has worked for me and that consistently works for other men. You don't have to train every day, but I'm going to share what works for me and what has consistently worked for others. Also, with the diet side of things, what you're going to be eating if you want to follow what I'm doing is going to be different to what the average person's eating, and it's also going to be different to what the bodybuilding magazines and other things are telling you. So this will be a stretch of your comfort zone. If you don't want to hear ideas that aren't common, that aren't normal, that you aren't going to see in the muscle magazines, then it probably isn't for you. It's also important to understand that your genetic potential is probably not your limit. If you're blaming your genetics, like you're blaming your ancestors, they won. They were successful. They were able to allow you to exist because of their fight for existence, for reproduction, and for the survival of their offspring. It's very unlikely that that is holding you back from being like having an exceptional physique as far as a modern man goes, because the standards of modern man are so low, and most men are operating at such a small fraction of their potential in terms of muscle, in terms of everything really, learning and business and everything. But the standards are so low that if you're not exceptional, it's very unlikely that it's your genetics. It's much more likely that you just don't really know what to do and you're being occupied with ideas that don't work very well. There's another myth that you have to consume a lot of carbohydrate. That is not necessarily an effective way to add a lot of muscle. I've added a lot of muscle with zero carbohydrate. You don't have to have zero carbohydrate intake, but a lot of times it's really the carbohydrate intake that is messing up your ability to store protein. We want to store protein, and people are storing carbohydrate. When carbohydrate stores are full in muscle glycogen, then it stores as fat. We want to store amino acids, we want to store protein. And so understanding that and doing things differently so that you store protein instead of storing carbohydrate is a key thing, especially for natural people. A lot of the information that you're going to get out there about adding muscle, it's based on using steroids and using even injecting insulin and all kinds of crazy stuff that goes on in the world of that. You can see that I'm not an exceptionally heavy person. I can tell you I've never used any of those substances, and you don't need to get to a physique like mine. I'm under the natty number by a significant amount. Now, I've worked with people who are over that number, who I believe are natural. I'm very confident are lifetime natural, but I'm not even close to that. So it's, if I had been taking stuff, I'd be wanting a refund, right? And so that is the next myth, the myth of hormones, that you need your hormone levels to be super high. If you look at the 50-year-old CrossFit women at your local box, the ones that go all the time, they're more jacked than most 20-year-old men. It's not because of their hormones. So don't hold on to hormones as being your limiting factor, that you need to boost your testosterone. And yeah, you want to be healthy, and yeah, boosting your testosterone, it's more for your confidence and for your drive, but you can have a lot of muscle without a lot of testosterone, as proven by women in CrossFit, postmenopausal women. And yes, there may be some women in CrossFit that are supplementing hormones or using peptides, but it's not the average woman at your local box. That's where you need to understand that CrossFit has components of great natural hypertrophy. And that's part of the reason why it's done so well as a system. Now, I don't train CrossFit, and I don't really recommend others to, because I think there are better ways. There are definitely more direct ways in terms of getting jacked than trying to do CrossFit, in terms of the skill level, in terms of the risk of injury, in terms of the time invested. And so, yeah, I use different methods. If you want to do it that way, fine, you can get in really good shape by CrossFit. The next myth would be calories. Just the idea, okay, I just need to eat more calories. I wouldn't run with that philosophy. It's about creating demand within the tissues, and most guys don't know how to create demand in the tissues. There's the concept that it's 90% diet. It's 90% diet for competitive bodybuilders who are all training with high volume, who are all, taking the same stuff, whether it's natural or not natural. They're all doing the same stuff. In the natural bodybuilding, they're taking the supplements, they're all training hard. And so for getting to competition form, then it is diet for them. But for the common man, or for yourself, it's much more about the tissue demand. It's 90% training and it's 10% diet. If you want to get shredded, then we can tweak things within the diet. But mostly it's about getting strong, and it's about tissue demand and the ability to tolerate volume. So again, if it fits your macros concept, holds a lot of guys back. Don't be focused on that stuff. There's guys that say, well, I'll be eating 6,000 calories a day and I'm not growing. Don't be fixated on that. Be fixated on improving your strength and your tolerance to volume. Okay, so the main problem that you have, write this down, is you are too weak to look good. If you don't look good, you are too weak. When you get really strong and you get strong for volume, it's very, very difficult. You have to eat like an absolute lunatic to not look good. Understand that. You simply have not done the work to build your strength and your tolerance to volume. And it's very simple to build those things safely and have an exceptional physique. That's what I'm here to tell you. If you can do that, if you've listened this far and you can do that, you will get a great result. Now, I can tell you specifics of exactly how to do that. What I would like is for you to understand the principles and philosophies of it, and you have that with you for the rest of your life. That is always my goal when I coach professional athletes. I worked with the Sydney Roosters, I worked with the Catalan Dragons, worked for 7 years in professional rugby, world champion team. I worked one-to-one with Sonny Bill Williams, the highest profile rugby league, rugby sevens player, highest profile player in that world in the last decade. I worked with him one-to-one. He came and stayed with me and my family. He's not unintelligent when it comes to improving his performance, and it was because that we got great results together that he wanted to do that. Now, his thing wasn't body composition. He was already quite muscular, but it did help a lot of other players to add a lot of mass. I worked with Blake Wilson, who's about 80, 81 kilos as a 17, 18-year-old. Far too light to be able to make it to the top league. Now, when we worked together, he got to 87 kilos, and he got to 91 kilos. Not too long after that, using these principles, and then he got a pre-season with the Melbourne Storm, who were a top franchise, and then he got a pro contract with the Bulldogs, and he played a bunch of games this year. He scored a bunch of tries, and he started to live his dream. Now, he's very early in the journey, and he was an exceptional young man in many ways. He was already very fast and athletic, and he's taken on a lot of other messages and a lot of other things together. I'm not telling you you're going to become a professional rugby player. What I am telling you is he had like more than 10 kilos of mass in a short period of time, and he was still ripped. Maybe you can find a picture, or maybe I can find a picture to add here, but these methods really work. So if your volume is too low, if you're training too close to your 1RM, if you're training to failure too often, that's another myth, and you need to go to failure all the time. You're going to feel terrible, and you're not going to get the training volume that you need if you're training to failure all the time, especially if you're not using any kind of steroids and stuff. It messes with your hormones, it messes with your nervous system. You don't need to be training near failure all the time. That's why we use the dense method. The dense method helps you stay away from failure, but get a lot of training volume. So when the volume is high, but the effort is low, you're not that close to maximal intensity for that weight or for that number of reps, then you will get great progress. You need to be healthy to build a lot of muscle. Some men just aren't healthy enough. So you want to build baseline health, and you want to have that anyway. You want to treat yourself with respect, treat your body with respect. Another thing is the power of the environment. So you see in professional rugby that professional rugby players are around other rugby players. They get to train with other rugby players. They get to eat with other rugby players. Because they're consistently in that environment, it becomes normal for them. It becomes normal for them to be muscular, to be bigger, and to be expecting more of themselves as far as strength training goes. It's not the same at a soccer club or at the tennis club. So getting yourself into that environment where it's normal to be big and strong, whether that's a digital environment. I have a community of men all around the world who are either already have an exceptional physique or are moving quickly towards one. That's one example, but find yourself in that kind of environment, either digitally or locally, and you're much, much more likely. We're more a product of our environment than we are even of our own beliefs, and we tend to take on those beliefs around us. Who you are individually is important, but the environment is it's a very important dictator, and that's how you set up winning rugby teams, is you set up the environment in such a way that when the player does what you say they need to do, you set up as a game, and then when they play that game, it makes them much better than the guys that they're going to play against. So that's the structure, and that's how I work with developing men across whatever their goals are. Another big thing is not eating enough meat. I'll talk to men, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I want to put on 10 kilos. I want to put on a lot of weight," and they say, "I'm eating 200 grams of meat a day, or I'm eating 400 grams of meat a day." When I'm adding mass to a rugby player, we'll start between 1 kilo and 1.5 kilos of meat per day. People listen to that and they think, "Oh, how would you ever eat that?" It's actually not that hard. I've eaten more than that in one meal, sitting together with Sonny Bill Williams actually, and eating at Churrasco. But you get used to it and you don't feel overly full. The funny thing is with meat, it doesn't make you feel full in the way that gorging yourself on other foods, you feel discomfort and you feel disgusting. I do. If I eat way too much at a buffet of like all kinds of stuff. But when you eat a lot of meat, you can feel great and you don't need to eat that much. 500 grams is actually not that much. I remember the first time I ate a 500 gram steak and I was like, that was like, how did I get through that? That was about 20 years ago. But I was eating a lot of other stuff at that time. I was having the bread and having the potatoes and having whatever entrees and sugar drinks and other things. Once you get used to it, your body will process it really easy and it doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. Another challenge can be ignoring the ancestral truths. So animals don't do well in captivity in the zoo. It's very difficult for them to reproduce. Their behavior's off. They get depressed. They get anxious. Same for humans. When you live in a little apartment, you're not getting into nature. You're not getting around other men. You're breaking all of nature's rules. What do you expect? You're going to feel terrible. So this is another one. The real solution is that you learn to look after yourself and that you learn principles that you live by. So you write the terms of your life, you write your norms, what you do as far as training goes, as far as food goes, and then you stick to those. And then you refine them if you need to, and you speak to others who are doing the same thing that you're wanting to do or better, and you stick to those terms. That's the game. That's the goal. So you have to set up the successful environment around you. This is the biggest thing that you need to know. Set up the environment and you will win. So the environment consists of connecting to people who are already doing what you've done, who are better than you, people who are at the same level, and even if you can help someone else to get to where you are, even better still. So if you have that connection, action, new knowledge. This is a framework for success in everything. It's a framework for success in muscle. You need to have someone around you who's better than you at what you do, who's expecting better of you, and then have teammates, people at a similar level, and bring someone along for the journey. Help a younger man, help someone who's in not the best shape. This is the framework of the environment for success. The framework for personal success is the ability to bring other people to an idea. So when you understand this and you're able to teach it to someone else and they get it and they implement it, that means you really know it. If you can't do that, you don't have strong individual pull. You're individually, that's a weakness. Men who are successful in anything have the ability to bring others to an idea. Not many men have that ability and not many men are that successful. The second is to show initiative. And so this is not something for you to be helpless about. Well, just tell me everything and just hold my hand every day and just make everything super easy for me and I'll do it. That's not a formula for success. You need to show initiative. Successful men recruit others, they show initiative and they persist. Are you persistent? Will you go through again and again and again? Will you actually be able to implement something so that you get a result? This is the formula for personal success. So I'm teaching these principles because it's a more of a mental game than it is a physical one. The physical stuff is pretty easy. Once you have a strong mental game, once you've decided something for your future, you've written the terms of your life that you're going to win by, and then you execute them. If the winning terms that you wrote don't give you the winning life that you wanted, then you simply change the terms, but you're already the kind of person who can write terms for themselves and stick to those terms, which makes you very rare, which makes you likely to have a top 1% physique, a top 1% life. So specifically, the goal is that you know how to train, that you know what training split to follow, that you track your records, that you stay motivated, that you can compete with others and share inspiration. Men are primarily or majorly driven by playing an important part within a tribe. If you didn't play an important part within a tribe in the past, you were more at risk. You weren't going to do as well. You're more likely to get thrown to the wolves, overrun, taken by the local tribe because the other opposing people, because you didn't have that protection of, oh, he's important. It's going to bring a big cost if I mess with him. So I believe it's deeply wired into us to need brotherhood and to need to play an important role in the tribe. My experience is that when men feel as though they're lone wolves, they're on their own. A lone wolf is not a lone wolf by choice. A lone wolf is a lone wolf because it lost the pack or it got outcast, and the lone wolf is vulnerable. So it's not something to want to be a lone wolf. The lone wolf will always underachieve relative to the pack. Those who think they're lone wolves generally have a lot of students, and they're not actually a lone wolf. They have a massive pack. So if you can understand these ideas and you apply things like dense method, range method, you can solve any body part issues, body part guides, you become more flexible, you build more skill in the process, then you can get the body that you want. I'm going to also share with you some of the diets that I've used. I'm actually on a special diet at the moment called the Lean Countdown Diet. It's helped me lose 2-3 kilos of fat. I'm able to do 2 standing handstand push-ups on the minute, which I've never been able to achieve this level of strength and relative strength before. The diet is part of it. The way I've been training that I'm teaching you with the dense method and range method is also a big part of that. Being more concrete, to give you good solid value here, if you've listened to 20 minutes of this, complete dense strength blocks every day. 1 or 2 blocks will be enough if you're able to progress them. And it sounds like, 10-20 minutes training, how easy. But dense is a lot of work and you're getting a significant amount of volume. And most men aren't really ready for more than that because you have to be able to recover from the volume. And so if you apply that concept, every minute you start a new set. That's what dense is. You do 10 minutes worth. Every minute you start a new set. You use the same weight, or if it's body weight, then it's going to be the same weight. And you go for the same number of reps. This is the basic dense method. There are a number of variations and 5-minute styles and other possibilities with it, but I'm going to share with you the foundation principle. So for example, with push-ups, you would do 5 push-ups each minute for 10 minutes. That will give you 50 push-ups, which is more than most are generally doing. That should be quite easy for most men. If you're listening to this, you're probably training. You work that up, by the time you're getting 12, 13, 15 push-ups for 10 minutes, you're getting 150 push-ups, then you're going to develop yourself. You might want to go to a deficit, you might want to go to dips, but you're going to get results out of that. So that's the idea. If you're completing, it doesn't have to be rocket science. If you're getting better at 10s, if you're getting better, the higher repetition, like 10 on the minute for 10 minutes, if you're getting better at lower repetitions, like 3s and 5s, then you will progress. If it's push-ups, then 3 or 5 would have to be like a deficit push-up or more towards a handstand push-up variation if you're already strong. Or it could be dips, or it could be handstand push-ups, or it could be bench press if you've got weights and you want to use them. So I'm sharing with you the overall principles. You stay calm, you progress the load, you make it relatively easy to progress. When you get to a level that you can't really progress anymore, you change the game and then build up again. So you could do pause push-ups, for example, or you could do slow eccentrics on the push-ups, for example. I'm also going to introduce you to some of the diets that have been effective for me. I've used an upgraded version of the carnivore diet. I've used an emergency mass maker protocol, lean countdown diet, smarter carb diet, and I'll take you through those in the presentation. The presentation, as I said, I'm going to give to you for free. If you would like that presentation, hopefully this has been helpful. This is what I value most and how I've been able to add mass to my own body, add mass to men who thought that they weren't going to be able to add mass, and it's made professional careers. It's made a lot of men feel better about themselves, and it's not a bad thing to want to be valuable. It's not a bad thing to want to look better. It's not a bad thing to be more capable athletically. Don't feel guilty about wanting to achieve and wanting to be better. There is a lot of guilt being thrown around for wanting to be better and wanting to achieve, and people are really criticizing the men who have high standards for themselves. There are people throwing around criticism. Oh, he's too disciplined. There's a lot of slurs thrown at high achieving, disciplined men in the modern world. And generally the model of the Western man is kind of under attack. So you have to be willing to go through that to have the exceptional result. It's worth going through that. There is a significant force that occupies the mind of most men, that makes them think pizza is a reward and ice cream is a reward and beer is a reward. What if it was the opposite? What if those things are designed to take away your happiness, take away your health, take away the possibilities that you could have for your future? In my experience, that's true. I've consumed a lot of junk food in my life. Since moving away from that, my experience is better. I make more money. My relationship with my wife is better. I'm proud of myself more often. My relationship with my children is better. I can do all kinds of physical feats that I couldn't do when I was eating like that. It doesn't mean I can never have ice cream or I could never have a pizza if I wanted to. It means what I love most is being proud of myself. And so that's the invitation. If you would like to be more proud of yourself, I have some systems to support you with this. At the final level, 25 minutes in, I'm going to offer you a free app to get 10,000 repetitions of the movement that you choose within that app. So I'll send you the link for that as well. That gets you into a brotherhood of other men who've listened to this and decided, I can do better. And we have also the Uncommon Success Essentials, which gives you the foundation for applying this to more generally to life. Because the reason I don't generally teach this, even though it's clearly the best business that I could run, would be to sell this stuff, because that's what everyone just told me from my audience that they like from me. I got a lot bigger response than I ever get when I talk about, having life on your own terms and being able to travel the world on your own income, or when I talk about being able to do handstands and handstand push-ups, or the mental flexibility that comes from learning to 5-ball juggle in your 30s. I post about these other things as well, why I'm building villages all over the world, why I dedicate my life to helping other men to see their potential. What's most wanted from me is muscle stuff. Now, because I don't really want to do that, I see a bigger vision and a bigger mission for myself. I'm going to give you all of that. If you do have an interest in a bigger, better life, if you'd like to have a business, if you'd like to travel the world, if you'd like to learn multiple languages, and you want to be connected with hundreds of other men who've made that decision and backed it with massive action, then that is a possibility as well. The Uncommon Success Essentials is a free introduction to that. So you can have a look at what is this all about? What's the philosophy? That might be a next move that some of you want to make. Feel free to reply to this video. Feel free to comment on this video if you found some value in it. It's all about, for me, recruiting, finding men around the world who want to have great families, great bodies, great businesses. That's what I value. I have a beautiful wife, 2 children, 1 more on the way. I have a great business. Got friends all over the world. And I have a body that to me seemed impossible to have. So I want you to have the body piece. If you're interested in the other pieces, we can also work together towards that, starting with that free Uncommon Success Essentials. Thank you for listening. And I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear also your success story. If you apply just what was in this video today and you're able to significantly improve your physique and probably your path in life through being more confident, being more disciplined, and be executing on other components of your life that you can be more proud of. Thanks for listening. I should also mention that going through the Uncommon Success Essentials is part of the pathway to being able to go to the villages, and it'll probably help you with your application if you do want to go to the Bali time chamber. I've worked closely with Nico over the years. If you want to come to Montenegro or Vanuatu or Mexico or future village locations, then Uncommon Success Essentials is a good place to start and work towards that. I love the experiences that we've already had in those locations, running live events and bringing 10 to 20 men from around the world together for training, for considering what's best in life, for eating great food. That's some of the best stuff that I've ever done. The goal is that that's going to be family experiences as we progress the locations and as we develop the men and the network further. Whether you have a family now or not, I hope you have a family. You should plan on a big family, beautiful children. There's nothing better. But I hope this made sense. I hope it had value. I know that it's changed my life dramatically, and the expectation is that you will implement it and it will change your life for better.